Yo, what is up guys? Welcome to this introductory Python series. My name is Ishan Venkat and welcome to Codify Learning. In today's lesson, we will be learning about the basic setup needed to run Python with the most up-to-date interpreter, in this case being Python 3.9. We'll also be talking about different IDEs and their advantages and disadvantages. Okay, let's go download the interpreter first. Python uses interpreter rather than a compiler. The key difference between an interpreter and a compiler is that the interpreter is made to execute the code line by line, whereas a compiler first prepares the code and then the execution is made. This makes the interpreter slower as it goes line by line, one at a time. Alright, now let's go to python.org to download our interpreter. I'll have the link in the description below as well. So the page will look something like this. So from this, we can go to this downloads page and click that. Now we see that we have a whole lot of Python interpreters that we can use. We'll be using the most up-to-date version, which is Python 3.9, the most latest release. And so then we can click this download button over here. Now, if you scroll all the way down, you'll see a section called Files. From this Files, you'll take the executable installer that is made for your system. If you have a Mac, you'll be using the Mac installer, and if you have a Windows, you'll be using the Windows installer. So since I'm on Windows, I'll be using this one right here. And so for me, it will look something like this, and I can just click this and it'll download for me. And now I'll download it, click install now. Okay, while it's installing, we can talk about documentation. So what is a documentation? It is a set of instructions or a guide on how you can use Python 3.9 and other Python versions to your to whatever you want it to do. So if you hover over documentation here on the top bar, and you can click docs right here. And so what this is it'll show you every single documentation documents that you can use to help you. Here you can click beginner's guide. From this, you can see everything that you need to know, and I'll have the link for this also in the description below. Alright, so now that our setup was successful, we can go and look at IDEs, different kinds of IDEs and their advantages and disadvantages. Okay, now let's talk about what is an IDE. We've been saying IDE this, IDE that. Now let's look into what an IDE is. An IDE is short for Integrated Development Environment. That means that this is where all of the code is going to be, and from this, the interpreter will be able to run the code. There are lots of IDEs, but here are a few of the most popular IDEs and their advantages and disadvantages. There are four main IDEs: Pycharm from JetBrains, VS Code, Atom, and Notepad++. Pycharm is the most popular IDE. It auto-completes phrases and is color-coded to help you understand the code better. VS Code is an all-round IDE which you can use for any language as long as you have the plugin for it. It offers the same things as Pycharm, but it is slightly complicated to get it started. Now we have Atom, which many people use. Atom is a lot like VS Code, but it doesn't autocomplete and it doesn't have debugging as a feature like the other IDEs mentioned. Notepad++ is mainly used as a test bench to test things because it uses less resources on the computer, such as RAM and CPU utilization, and it doesn't have features that the other IDEs do. Additionally, you have to run the code from Notepad++ from the command line rather than inside the IDE itself. I will be using Pycharm because I'm used to it and it is very easy to learn. Now, let's download Pycharm. On the search bar, we can look up Pycharm download. And like this, we can click this download Pycharm from over here, and you'll come to the download Pycharm page. Now, from this, you can click download the community version. I'll also have the links to this down in the description below. So now while it's downloading, we'll wait for that. Okay, cool. Now that it's done downloading, now we can click on the executable installer. Now you can just click next, next, and for this we'll be adding the launcher's directory to path, and we'll also be creating a desktop shortcut. You don't need to do these, but it is vital in some cases that you add it to path, but it is not necessary for what we're going to be doing in this course. Alright, now we can just wait for it to install. Okay, now that it's done installing, I'll click I want to manually reboot later. And so, you can either reboot your computer right now, or you can reboot it later, but it is not necessary to do that. Okay, so now what do? Now we can open up our Pycharm Community Edition, which you guys downloaded just now. Okay, so now we can confirm that we have read the user agreement. Make sure to read it properly. Now we'll wait for the one-time setup. Cool. So now from this projects, you can click create a new project. And now we'll be using our Python 3.9 that we installed over here. And we'll be creating a new environment using a virtual environment like this. And so you can keep this virtual environment wherever you want. For now, I'll just keep it in the default directory. And here I'll rename the project to YouTube for my case. Okay. And now we'll not check off the create a main.py welcome script, and now we will click create. And so it might take some time to create a virtual environment. Okay. Okay, cool. So now that it's done installing, you're almost ready to start programming your first lines of code. So now here, we right click this folder, which I have called YouTube. So we can click new, and then we'll add a Python file, and we'll call this our first Py program. And just like this, we'll have this right here. So now, before you can start writing your lines of code, we'll have to go on the top right and double click on add configuration. Now from here, we can click the plus button, add new configuration, and then we'll click on Python. Now, for the script path, we'll go all the way here, and inside our Python projects, we will go and click first Py program, and that is where it's going to be running. And then we click apply, and we click OK. So now, whatever you have, you can right click on the first Py program.py, and we can click run that. And so now it'll run. Since there's nothing there, it won't run anything. And you have successfully just set up your IDE and your interpreter. Now we will begin writing our first line of code. So as usual in the programming community, we will start with printing out hello world inside the terminal. So in Python it is very simple. You only need your print here with parentheses, and see how it auto-completed the parentheses like that? That is a feature that this IDE offers. So now inside print, in quotations, we will write hello world. Kind of like this. And we can run it on the top right, and here you can see that it printed out hello world. In the next episode, we'll talk about why we had to use quotes inside of the print and different data types, and what you can do with all of those. For now, thank you for watching. Make sure you hit that like button and subscribe if you want more content like this. See ya, and catch you on the flip side.